Of me. I told her only partly. I only love the All-Star Showdown League and Hutch 0322. I'm sorry. What it do, ASL fans? It's Susie back with a new
What was that?
a new season of transactions. And I'm back at it with my good old pal.
Hey guys, Hutcho322 here, as Susie cringily mentioned.
Big streamer, dude. You should check him out on Twitch and also check out his YouTube channel. Hashtag plug. Okay, so we're gonna hop into our week one transactions, and if anyone can flash back to 2 seasons ago, we had a coach named Demaster who's back this year, and near the middle endish of the season, Blake decided to have a crazy week where he made a bunch of transactions, and TG and Static ended up filming a nuts transactions video.
There were
That
28
is what today pretty
transactions.
much.
It was
That's
28.
pretty much what today is.
I think it was 42. I'm gonna do my research while you're talking.
Lot. Well, this is essentially that. It's a little bit less, I believe. I haven't done a numbers count, but I bet it's pretty close. But might be here for a long time, so if you need to go get something to eat or drink, I would advise you guys to go do that really fast. And just really sit down because we're going to be here for a while, and we're going to break down transactions that we saw from a number of teams.
Okay,
Pretty
so
crazy.
we have 15, and in season 3 there were 34. I stand corrected. There were 34 transactions in week 8. So, the more you know.
Crazy. This is, I think, the second largest week of transactions to that. I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Yeah.
We don't want to take too much of your time, even though we are going to. So let's try to get this done right now. And we're going to hop into our first transaction, which was a move by Shadow. And it was a transaction where he dropped Rampardos in exchange for Togetic. So this move was first criticized by some people as they believed that Togetic was a little bit too passive. But I think it adds a lot to Shadow's team at the same time if you can find a way to not have this thing be super passive. Because if you look at his team, he's lacking any fairy typing before this. So you get an extremely bulky wall in Togetic, which makes his team much more defensive, which he can really use, and it can maybe build a nice core with something like, say, Hippowdon. So I think that adds a lot to his team, but at the same time, you need to realize that this thing can be very, very passive, and if you're not careful, you can get swept if you leave this thing in too long.
Yeah. So, basically before this, Shadow's best terms of removing hazards is Swallow, and that's simply not okay when you have a Victini. So you got it for the hazard removal, but I have Shadow's reasoning. He said we needed a fairy type and some hazard removal. The two major options were Florges and Togetic, and he saw Togetic as a temporary fix, and he didn't want to get rid of any of his top tier Mons. His top tier Mons being Celesteela, Victini, and Hippowdon. And he didn't want to use two transactions early on. He might consider dropping Togetic if better options open up. And Rampardos, he felt was his most dispensable Mon in Tier C, so it just made the most sense. You can't run Victini without reliable hazard removal, and like you said, it's kind of passive, so it's not exactly reliable hazard removal, but it's better than Swellow, so he said it's a temporary fix, so take what you can get for the time being. Not a bad move. Togetic does hold a good amount of value in Tier C because it can swallow so many hits. And if you have enough move slots to run Nasty Plot, you can get around the fact that it is a very passive Mon.
Okay, so there we go with our first transaction, and let's go on to yet another drop, and this was from the coach of the St. Louis Swablos. I think so, right? It's the coach of the St. Louis Swablos, Iwater Malone, and he made a move exchanging one of his main walls, Cresselia, a Mon he has used probably more than any other Mon in Draft League, maybe besides Gator. So I didn't really like this move immediately just because draft Cresselia and then just drop it week one immediately. And it's not like Florida was something that was drafted and then dropped right away. But upon further inspection, I can really see that he really, really wanted to back up his Kieran Black, wanting to run his Mega Diancie very, very, very offensive, which means he's lacking any type of defensive fairy. So by picking up Florges, he's able to really complement Kieran Blackwell and now give himself a very good form of hazard removal thanks to Sun and Moon, which gave Florges defog. So I like the move, just not this early.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I do absolutely love this move because I think in years past, Malone's biggest downfall and the reason that he has never made playoffs is he relies on Cresselia way too much, and it really shadows over very good mons that he has, and he needs to let other things shine. So Florges is a mon. It's a very big support mon. Got the heal bell options, wish options, just a very good cleric. Defog because you don't want Rotom Mo being your only term, like your only really good. That's actually his only good. It was his only hazard removal in general, besides Talonflame. And Talonflame is not a remover. Don't let anyone tell you what it is. So it's good to have there with the Kieran Black. And Malone's reasoning for making the trade, he said, well, I like Wish support, and I think I needed that. Plus, having a Cleric in general is just good, and I've liked Florges in the past. And yeah, I noticed it was Dark Week, and I was Dark Week, and Cress wasn't helping, so I did listen to the rankings vid for advice. I went Florges over Sylveon because of Defog and using it in the past better. Makes sense. He already has Deontay. I think having two fairies with Deontay is a fantastic idea because then you don't force Deontay into the situations where it's like, oh, I got to come in and take an outrage, but oh, they might click Earthquake because a lot of dragons
Exactly.
do. You can just have Deontay be your offensive fairy, and then you can have Florges be your defensive fairy, and it helps out a lot. It pairs very well with the Curum. My only issue with this team right now is it's pretty steel weak, but he can fix that up with transactions down the line. This is overall better for his team, and I think he was going to have to rely on Cresselia too much if he kept it.
That was a great analysis, but I would disagree with him being steel weak. He has a Talonflame. Okay, jokes aside, let's move on. So the the next move we have is a series of moves which Cam made by using all three of his drops to pick up three mons. But this is arguably the greatest transaction this week, just because he was able to pick up a lot of threatening mons and still check the boxes with the mons he dropped. So first off, he wanted to drop his main defensive wall, Milotic, from tier A, and he went to go pick up none other than Scizor. And this move on the surface is just fantastic. I mean, Scizor plus Latios is one of the most threatening offensive cores in Pokemon. And then when you're able to add Amon besides that, like Jellicent in tier B as a bulky water, I can easily see why you can replace Milotic. So I really love those two moves. He dropped Vikavolt, but he was still able to get the electric type back with Stunfisk, which gives him more bulk and gives him another ground type, or is it his only ground type? That is his first ground type. So I like that move. And then he did not need Leavanny anymore because he primarily wanted that for webs, and he already has a Smeargle on his team, which, although it is a little bit annoying, I don't see why you need two web setters to pick up these three mons that help you way better.
Yeah, I think this is the best transaction of the week, and you guys can let us know if you think it's the best transaction of the week. But honestly, the value here, it's so good because if you're looking at Melodic and Jellicent, yes, there's big differences by Melodic, but honestly, when you're getting Scizor over Vikavolt, I would much rather have a Scizor plus a Jellicent rather than a Melodic plus a Vikavolt. It just gives his team so much more options. His team was almost all special attackers, and giving him a Scizor, Scizor, Absol, and Sneasel can really work to be the big physical wall breakers on this team. And this team is just looking so much better. Of course, he's trying to get rid of Sneasel because he doesn't need Sneasel and Mega Absol, but he doesn't have any more transactions for that. Getting Stunfisk, I think that was a really good move. Stunfisk is a really underrated mon. But
Oh.
his reasoning was, so I like Scizor, and I wanted it, so I got it. And then he realizes he didn't have a bulky water anymore, so he picked up Jellicent. And then after dropping Vikavolt, he did not have an electric type anymore. So then he got Stunfisk. Pretty straight forward reasoning. Makes sense. Like I said, there's some other things that I think you should do with this team. This also gives him plenty of options for hazard removal. He can run Latios, Scizor, Delmise. He has a lot of options there. His team isn't hazard weak by any means, But his team is good. It's a lot better than last season. And yeah, if he can find a way to trade away the Sneasel to get a different value pick, say maybe get a good fairy type to pair with that Latios and Scizor, he's going to be in business. He's going to be looking really good to end the season or just go through with the season. But yeah, I just think that this synergizes so much better with his team because otherwise he's just relying on special attackers, and obviously you can just run Assault Vest and 100% shut that down.
I'm very glad I did not have to play his new look roster.
Yeah, his new roster looks nice.
Nice, yeah. We have is one that I made myself, and I'm a big fan of my move, and I think it is just moves I could have made this season. So that's the reason I made it so early, because I see no way this is gonna bite me back in the back. So first off, I dropped a Volibee, which is looking mighty thick in that photo there, Hutch. Thank you.
No problem, no problem.
I drafted Volibee because I really, really like this mon in Tier C. It has so much versatility. It can do things with its prankster like Tailwind, Tail Glow, Baton Pass, Thunder Wave. It does a lot of things. I really like it. I kind of picked it just because I wanted it. Didn't know what to pick then. But reflecting back a few days later, I realized that with Klefki as my steel type, it did not resist steel types completely. So I should probably get another steel type to make my team a little bit stronger. So I went and I picked up Pharaoh Seed, which I really like due to its bulk and its ability to be a hazard setter. Because before now, I only had rocks on Rhyperior and Necrozma, and then spikes on Klefki. But now with Pharaoh Seed, I can bring this and have both those types of hazards and not have to rely on Klefki to always use spikes as a move slot.
Yeah,
Happy with
fair
that
enough.
move.
I like this move. It's actually pairs pretty well with Mega Venusaur. I think that's might be something that you are possibly looking past because Mega Venusaur is not weak to fire due to its Sick Fat ability, so you could take that off. This thing is not weak to fighting, and Mega Venusaur resists that. Mega Venusaur doesn't like psychic types, and you resist that. The only thing between the two is the flying weakness, so I think you have really good synergy there, plus not having to bring Klefki every week to spike stack is really good. Yeah, it's not a bad mon. You don't have to run Leech Seed on Mega Venusaur. You can run Synthesis and just have Leech Seed support through the Ferroseed. But overall, it's not going to be a trade that you're going to be looking at like, oh, I got to bring Ferroseed this week. This is why this is helpful. Now, you might bring it like 2 or 3 times throughout the entire season at most, but in those matchups, I think it's going to be just a little bit better than Volbeat since, honestly, with webs, you don't need the speed pass that you can provide with like Tailwind and then Baton Passing out. Tail Glow might have been nice, but there's not a whole ton of mons on your team that would really benefit from it besides Necrozma or the Galvantula, but either way, you just would want to run a setup variant on Necrozma with like something like, I don't know, not webs, but dual screens on Klefki. So yeah, I like this trade, and you're honestly getting more value out of it.
All right, so the next move we have is a move from TCP, the coach of the Hartford Whalers, I think, right?
Yep.
He dropped Espeon and Frogadier, I think that's how you say it, for Aromatisse and Masharna. So I think I might let Hutch take this whole move because I know he really, really loves talking about Aromatisse. So I think we should give him as much screen time as possible.
Oh yeah. Well, let's just say that I'm glad that I won't have to play this because this takes an effect in week 2, and I play him week one. So that's good. Uh, I I'm not hating the move. His team was already like extremely hyper offensive between his first couple of picks, so giving himself a backbone with Aromatisse because Aromatisse is a mon that you could really rely on, especially with something like Registeel. Like that's dirty. That is a dirty core because you could just be wish passing to the Registeel, and that does not sound fun in the slightest to break. So I like that. Espeon really wasn't helping him all that much. He doesn't need more offense. He has plenty of offense. And Frogadier wasn't really doing him anything, so I guess just getting Masharna. That's just filling the void of a psychic type. Plus bulky psychic types, in my opinion, are better than offensive psychic types. But yeah, not bad. We'll go ahead and read off his reasoning. He said he wanted a fatter wish passer and more bulk, which he got in Aromatisse, and he wanted a budget Cress in Masharna. And he realized that he would never bring Frogadier to a battle, so it was basically dead weight on his team. And he knows that it makes him weaker to hazards to not have Espeon there. But Steel types also do hurt his team, but he felt like the value through Aromatisse and the Registeel core is just going to help him so much. Plus, he has a lot of ways to deal with Steel types in the Infernape and through the Zygarde. So go ahead and talk about this.
Gonna be very annoying to play. Steel plus Aromatisse. Well, I like this move because it, like you said, it really balances his team a little bit more since it adds two really bulky mons to a team that is full of a lot of wall breakers, like you were saying. So that's my first impression of this move that I really enjoyed. But at the same time, I think Masharna is very passive, which can be dangerous at times. But knowing TCP, he's going to know a way to use it very well. And I expect at least one Calm Mind sweep this year at TCP, so you better show it.
All right.
Is the move that a lot of people have enjoyed to talk about so far this week. And this is courtesy of none other than the trade master himself, the master, the coach of the Denver Numels. Blake, week 1, decided, hey, I do not like my draft. So he decided to trade his second round pick, I believe, of Kartana. Let me go check that.
Yep, second round. His first round was Megalodios.
Actually, so nice try, Hutch. Third round pick of Kartana.
Oh, his third round.
Tier B Venomoth, and then Amon, I told him multiple times during draft day, do not pick this Floette, just because he said it'll be funny. I kid you not. So immediately Blake decides to add some bulk to his team with Shaman, because if he's gonna drop his grass type Kartana, he wants to get grass back. And I like Shaman a lot for his team personally, just because I think it can pair well with a lot of his mons on his team, like Rotom Heat and Megalodios, along with Manaphy. But at the same time, it left a hole in his team, making him a lot more passive, which he did address then, picking up Alolan Marowak, which has been one of the most threatening mods in ASL history in its few appearances. That Static showed us, hashtag throwback, hashtag Liddy Gang. So I like that he was able to get a very offensive wall breaker like Marowak, who is a better breaker than Kartana, frankly. So I'm glad he was able to get that. But my only criticism is his team lacks any Trick Room setters, and Marowak really likes Trick Room, and if you can't give him this Trick Room, that's an issue. I need Trick Room. I should address that. Nice job, Blake. You didn't. You got Whirlipede, and us were confused why I wanted Whirlipede. So Blake broke it down to us extensively. Here's a quote from him. It's super bulky with Eviolite, can set up a sub and pass speed super easily, and can also lay down spikes. That Whirlipede before in Showdown knows this statement has one major issue with it. It is, Hutch?
The major issue is that Whirlipede does not learn Baton Pass.
That's the one right there. So, Blake, next time, please check Showdown before you make this transaction and say that. But I will say, Whirlipede is very bulky, and I like that it gives you access to hazards like spikes now, because it's going to really help you to weaken down teams and allow mons like Marowak to clean up.
Okay, so I think he absolutely botched this trade. I think he absolutely made the incorrect call. Now, the Whirlipede, whatever. You didn't know about it. I think you should have picked up Ninjask. That would have been better. But if you wanted to keep something like a poison type, there was stuff like Garbodor down there. There was stuff in Tier C that could provide you the same things, because Garbodor can also set up Toxic Spikes and Spikes. Now, the issue that I have is why you got Shaman when Ferrothorn was sitting right there. Ferrothorn Megalodios plus Manaphy sounds absolutely dirty of a core. That sounds ridiculous of a core. I'm not saying that Shaman isn't going to be good. Shaman is a good mon in its own right, but the synergy of Ferrothorn plus Megalodios and Manaphy with the Leech Seed support is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know why you didn't do this. All Shaman really provides is special offense, but like I said, you have a Megalodios and a Manaphy. It provides you synthesis. You can Leech Seed support, and both of your top two mons are going to devour fire type attacks. You have no concern about that. You also have two fire types. You have a rock type. It doesn't make sense to me why you would get Shaman when Ferrothorn pairs literally the best thing in free agency for you would have been the Ferrothorn. So I'm just a
Oh,
little
God.
confused there, but here's his reasoning. And I quote, he said, I don't really like Cortana that much, and it not being a Z user is not as good, and Shaman is pretty versatile, and I liked using it in the past. Alolan Marowak is a very hard-hitting mon and is still bulky and gives me a type I don't have in Ghost, which helps against fighting types a lot because my other good switch-in was Megalodi, and he doesn't want to use that as a wall. He wants to use it offensively. Fair reasoning. I just think, yes, Shaman is more versatile than Ferrothorn, but you don't really need offense. You have plenty of offense, and I don't know. We'll see how it works out. It's only week 1, so it's hard to judge people's teams immediately, but I just think getting Ferrothorn would have provided a much better core for him moving forward.
That was a great analysis, Hutch. Only if one day I could be as intelligent as you. But wait, you can. 322 on YouTube and watch his team builders and
For the
matches
small
to get
price of
as intelligent as
$19.99.
him.
Link down below, fun fact.
Okay,
Alright.
so the next move we have is from arguably one of the worst coaches in ASL history. Nah, I'm
Arguably,
just joking.
definitely.
A sound argument, but I guess you could argue it. Okay, so this is a move made by Hutch, but we have to break it down at the same time with the next move because it's corresponding. So when Hutch was looking at his team, Hutch decided, hey, when you pair Slowking with a Mungus, it's very good. But when you pair Slowbro with a Mungus, kill. So Hutch talked to a little boy named Ian over there and said, yo, can I have that Slowbro? He was going to pick up Yuxi and make an easy trade with Ian where he was able to acquire Slowbro, which makes this core just absolutely disgusting. Because if you know anything about Amoonguss, they get access to Regenerator, and that can be impossible to kill at times. I love the move, and it makes your team just really, really, really hard to look at envisioning when I'm playing you.
Yeah, so basically my reasoning for this, I have no issues with Slowking. I absolutely adore them on. But if you look at Amoonguss, so like here's my reasoning. I wanted to get Slowbro from Ian because it complemented Amoonguss more than Slowking because Amoonguss has a higher special defense stat, so Slowbro helps with physical attacks. Also, Amoonguss commonly runs Assault Vest, so if I have a big physical wall in Slowbro, it helps with that. I also felt that in most of the matchups where I would bring Slowking, I would still want to bring Slowbro and it would be even more effective. So like the matches where Slowking would be good, Slowbro is even better. So it's really only costing me a free agent transaction and 1 total transaction. You get 6 total transactions. So I'll have 2 going on in this season, and I think it was worth it, honestly, because there were some teams that I was like really, really scared of playing just because it forces Slowking to try and take a lot of physical attacks, which it otherwise it's base 80, which isn't terrible, but it's also not great, and Slowbro is base 110, so it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable there. So I felt that it was worth it, and yeah, don't look too much into the Uxie, but Ian said that he wanted Uxie. He actually didn't give reasoning when he made his reasoning. His reasoning was for his next pickup, but his Uxie was probably just to like try and get the gang back together for season 3 because he basically like rebuilt his season 3 team. It's kind of annoying because that team he was like second or third in the standings that season. So yeah, it gives him a good pivot. Uxie is honestly really good. If you can pair it with like Wish Pass and stuff like that, it's really, really good. It does get Heal Bell though, so it can be a Cleric, Rocks, U-turn, knockoff. A lot of good utility.
Uxie is very versatile, just like all the other Lake Pixies or whatever they're called.
Lake Trio.
Lake Trio. There we go. It's a trio gang, bruh. We have is a move courtesy of Ian. And in this move, Ian decided to drop Darmanitan and Gramble in exchange for Feeny and Magmortar. So immediately, everyone who's seen Ian play before knows that he's very, very good at using Tapu Fini. So that just jumps off the page right now, and he just got rid of his water typing in Slowbro, which allows him to get this water type, Tapu Fini, and make it his main wall, which I absolutely adore because if you're really good with something, you should definitely stick to it. You shouldn't just use something you don't know how to use. Being Gramble for Tapu Fini, which was his fairy type, he decided that he needed to get another fire type because he had to drop Darmanitan, his tier A. I'm very bad at keeping track of where I'm at, my bad. So he decided to pick up Magmortar, which is a very, very, very threatening wall breaker, and Magmortar can be ran very, very, very scary, especially. Able to add more special hitters to his team since he already has Mons like Scizor, Garchomp, and Chestnut. He doesn't really need many more physical hitters like Darmanitan. So this really balances out his team, and I absolutely adore this move.
Yeah, this team is looking good. Ian's most successful season in the ASL was Season 3, where he had a very, very similar team. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the doc, but like a lot of the core members he has, the Tapu Fini, where he did so well with that thing. He's got Garchomp, Mega Scizor, a lot of those Mons. So to read off his team, like the basic ones, he's got Scizor, Fini, Goodra, Gengar, Staraptor, Garchomp, Jolteon, Uxie, Cryo, Cradily, Blaziken, and Umbreon. That was his Season 3 team. So yeah, it's looking a bit similar. Darmanitan, he truly doesn't need it. It was a Mon he dropped like right after the draft. Or it was a Mon he picked up right after the draft. So interesting stuff there. But there are a few people that I've seen use Fini better than Ian. Ian is fantastic with a Mon. But here's Ian's well thought out reasoning. It's pretty long, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it. So he said, "Well, I blame Flareon. Couldn't get a good fire type at the time, so I picked up Gramble during draft instead, which was a decent budget fairy. I already drafted Clef, so I traded away to get myself a fire type in Darm. Darm really didn't fit my team's dynamic, and I really wanted a top tier fairy to partner with Scizor and Chomp. Fini was the only available in tier A, so I traded Darmanitan for it. I don't like having redundant typings for Mon that do the same thing. Fini also offers a top tier hazard remover which will decrease burden on Mega Scizor. So after getting Fini, I could get rid of Slowbro for Uxie, which is a cleric and a hazard setter with access to U-turn, which suits my team well. I do have a web setter. Magmortar has base 85 speed stat, which is ideal to take advantage of the web's base 95 attack and base 125 special attack is pretty decent for a low tier fire type. So basically he's just talking about how the value is so much, it's so much more prevalent with the Mons that he picked up. And the defog is really important because it does help out his Scizor a tremendous amount. Because otherwise he does not have like hazard removal in the slightest. He's got Scizor, Fini, and Masquerain, but Fini can almost every week afford to run the defog. And if he wants to run like something like a Choice Scarf Fini, which is not uncommon and I think it's really good, he could run Mega Scizor as his hazard remover. So he definitely has really good options, and getting the team back together is going to give Ian the best chance at making a playoff run.
All right, guys. So thanks for tuning into our transactions video to start off season 1. I'm sorry if my knowledge is spotty at times, but we have Hutch here to help carry the ship, help guide it. So thank you for watching. We'll be back next week, and we hope you have a good night.
All right, see you guys.